Which of these inventions came first? Which of these is a traditional form? Which of these London museums was founded first? Which of these football clubs has a bird-related nickname? Which of these is not one of the Benelux countries? Which of these was a leap year? Which of these Which of these acts did not? Which of these books was written by Roald Dahl? What colors are the Battenberg markings on a police car? Which of these men was assassinated in a hotel? Where can the hardest substance? Which of these phrases is off? Which of these drinks originate? How many of the signs of the Which of these creatures does not have scales? What does the L represent in the... Which of these songs was a hit the earliest? Which of these is a type of cherry? Where was Queen Elizabeth II when she died in 2022? The term, chops, take that formed in what? The badge of what county cricket club features a red rose? What animal nickname is given to a vicar's white collar? On a bicycle cleats attached to what part? Which of these trees is a... Which of these is a chill? Hitting the slopes is a term for what? A gnosis is... Which of... What edible flatfish shares its name with a piece of winter sports equipment? From 1979-85, 3 British runners broke the world record at what distance? According to the Leonard Cohen song, first we take Manhattan, then we take... How many outcomes are possible when investing in a binary op... In 2017, Kate Moss and Naomi... Meryl Burbank is the wife of Jim Carrey's character in which film? The Gabriel Garcia Marquez novel, Love in the Time of Cholera, was first published in what language? How many players take part in the semi-finals of a The pre-wedding ceremony called Mendi is most associated with which of these religions? What sort of creature is a stickleback? Which of these acts has had a UK #1 single? In what sport could you attempt a floater or a bottom turn? The Mendelssohn Scholarship is awarded in which field? Battersea Power Station is a landmark in what city? Which of these, Mr. Men, has no arms and a bright red nose? What country's kings were called? What parts of a plant most usually absorb liquid by osmosis? Schooners and brigs are both boats powered by what? Which of these is the title of a well-known opera by Bizet? What was the first European settlement in the Far East? Which of these Italian cities is located further? Which of these astronomical entities is largest? Albumin is the scientific name for what part of an egg? The Greek national anthem has how many verses? The film, White Men Can't Jump. Hubby is a familiar term for what relation? Which adjective refers to the human arm? Mexican hairless is a breed of what domestic pet? Which of these organizations has the most member countries? Who wrote the 2018 cookbook, Jamie's Friday Night Feast? The smallest cat in the Americas is often known as what? Damien Thorne is a main character in which horror film? What can be either serif or so? What is the name of the Uses Theatre Awards? What would a Biblioclass destroy? What is the most? What was the name of King George V's only daughter? What was the name of King George V? Simon Pegg plays Jack in what 2015 dating rom-com? Where would you find a concrete marker called a trig point? Where would you find a concrete? The French phrase, à la mode, means what? Which pioneer of the telephone died in Nova Scotia in 1922? In air travel the abbreviation, PAX, refers to what? In air travel the abbreviation, What was the name of Theodore Roosevelt's second son? Nocturne. Painting is set at what time of day? The condition carotenemia turns the skin what color? In what industry does a modest work? In what industry does a modest work? Who played 007 in Judi Dench's first James Bond film? Who played 007 in Judi? In later life Queen Victoria was given what nickname? If you were lying you were said to speak with a fork what? What name was given to the first clone cat? Seth Rogen starred as Mac Radner in which comedy film? Seth Rogen starred as Mac Radner in which comedy film? What US lingerie company opened its first UK store in 2012? Who managed England when they won the World Cup in 1966? In what branch of the arts is the term Old Master used? The name, Gobi, is Mongolian for what? Calamar is the Turkish word for what seafood? The gramophone was an early version of which device? How many Bond films did Daniel Craig star in?
Cameron.
Charlie.
Ashley. This is the speed I will speak your questions. In Elizabethan costume, a ruff is a frill worn around what part of the body? Which of these songs reached the highest position in the UK chart? The Little Tramp was the on-screen persona of which silent film comedian? By definition, a translucent material allows what to pass through it? What do Americans call the species of deer known as an elk in Europe? How many inches across should a set of 3 cricket stumps measure in total? The water in Mallorca don't taste like what it oughta was used to advertise what Dutch lager? In the crown jewels, the sovereign's orb is made of what metal? Splitting a piece of meat almost in two and spreading it out is called what? Grave, cauldron and vampire are type. Which of these fictional TV pubs was the most recent to appear? The phrase, "out for the count," has its origin in the Bible. What was the name of Saint Paul before his conversion on the Damascus Road? The Clarence Hotel in Dublin is co-owned by members of which band? The hit song, Gangnam Style, takes its name from a district in which Asian city? A breathalyzer is used to estimate the amount of what in the blood? What first name is shared by American golfers with the surnames Watson and Kite? A belt worn over one shoulder and used to carry a sword is called a what? Anthony Sher's book, Year of the Fat Knight, is about which of his Shakespearean roles? Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly, are the closing words of which film? Since the 1980s, what famous London street has been permanently closed to the public? The heel on a high-heeled shoe is usually measured in what imperial unit? What is the first name of the nursery rhyme character who owns a young ovine animal? What is the name of the shortest hole used in the Open Golf Championship? How long was the full-length version of Michael Jackson's Thriller video? What branch of physics deals with forces acting on objects moving through air?
What's that? Trick or treat?
Bounce to billions.
Which of these is not a chemical element? Which of these is a dialect word for asparagus? Which of these London? Which of these? Virginia Woolf is best remembered as which of these? Which of these is the medical term for short-sightedness? Kim Kardashian was born in what year? Which of these is the title of a 2014 film? Which TV chef tricked Cliff Richard into criticizing wine from his own vineyard? The Outkast song, Hey Ya, popularized the phrase, shake it like a, what? Which Australian tennis player won the 19... What completes the title of the drama series, Interview with the, based on books by Anne Rice? In what Wiltshire town were Melinda Messenger and Billie Piper born? Set during the Civil War, what sort of work is When Did You Last See Your Father by W. F. Eames? Zinfandel wine grapes are grown almost exclusively in what U.S. state? Which of these thoroughfares? Who succeeded John Curry as Olympic skating champion in 1980? In what film is society divided into factions based on personality? What handle for opening a door shares its name with a lump of butter? If you were eating a full, which of these would you expect to find in it? Who was famous for the catchphrase, "Can you hear me, mother?" In the board game, Trib. Which of these names does not appear in the The UK's two biggest selling duets. The success of the film. Before his marriage to Diana, Prince Charles held his stag do at which London venue?
This is the most relaxing crossword game, designed for seniors. No annoying ads, no Wi-Fi needed, 100% free to play. Train your brain, easy on the